Hello,
and welcome back to the 2 Cents Podcast.
This week, we're covering our furry babies.
Yeah, pet costs.
Pet costs. We have 4 pets, 2 dogs, 2 cats. They are a handful. They are adorable, smelly, and expensive.
Definitely expensive when we love them to death.
We love them to death. They are basically our children. We've covered before that you have children that live in a different state. So we like to think that these are the children that live with us full time.
Yeah. Oh, and they definitely felt like it too. That's the thing.
For sure, especially in the budget. So we figured we'd cover what it actually looks like down to the budget of what it's like to have 4 pets. But first, a quick word from this week's sponsor, Public. If you haven't heard of Public, they're an investing platform where you can invest in stocks, options, bonds, ETFs, crypto, and alternative assets, all in one place. We recently invested $1,000 in a public bond account, Woot Woo, where our money is invested into a portfolio of 10 investment grade and high yield corporate bonds. We locked in a 6.61% yield, pretty good, not mad about it, meaning it's not going to fluctuate, it's locked in, and we're going to hold those bonds until they reach maturity, of course, to maximize on the returns, and we also get to cash in regular interest payments while we wait.
If you're interested in learning more about Public and want to lock in a 6% or higher yield with a bond account, visit public.com/STS. And thanks again to Public for sponsoring our pod.
Brought to you by Public Investing, member FINRA plus SIPC. The yield is the average annualized yield to worst across all 10 bonds in the bond account before fees as of October 2nd, 2024. Your yield to worst is not locked in until the time of purchase. A bond's yield to worst is not guaranteed. You can earn less if you do not hold the bonds to maturity or the issuer defaults. Not an investment recommendation. All investing involves risk. Visit public.com/disclosures/bond-account for more info.
Welcome back to the pod. Let's get into it. Let's introduce our fur babies first.
Yeah, so
Starting with the oldest.
yeah, a few of you guys, if you've seen the last pod, definitely recognize Quinn. She is our oldest fur baby. We got her a year after we moved in.
Yeah, we got her we got her the year we moved in.
The year we moved in.
We got her less than a year after we met. She kind of came with our first apartment. We very quickly decided, we wanted a dog. We went to a Lucky Dog animal rescue event.
Yeah, they had an event in Shirlington. So, I pulled up on my motorcycle. She pulled up in her car. And yeah, sure enough, we went to go look. We went to look at another dog, right?
Yeah, we went to go look at another dog, and it turned out when we met him that there were just a lot of issues that would have been hard for us as new dog owners to get by. Like he was very people sensitive, not aggressive, but very people sensitive. He didn't vibe with us too well, and it was more so making sure that we got the right match. And
also sounds as well. Other dogs too, like he was just I don't want to call him difficult, but he was just
we weren't the right home for him. Yeah. And so we ended up looking at other dogs, and pretty quickly I look over and you're playing with this dog that has a red bandana, which like the dog we were going to go look at, a red bandana meant that they were difficult. Yeah. A little bit more difficult than a standard dog, which was a green bandana.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but like I look over and I see this dog. I'm like, oh my God, that's a beautiful little puppy. The volunteer that was holding her was like fighting for her life.
This poor volunteer.
But to me, I was like, oh, that's so cute.
And by fighting for her life, we meant that Quinn was pulling.
She was a tugger.
This poor volunteer. When we got Quinn, she was a terrible leash puller, and that was evident when we met her. Quinn was also not a puppy. She was full grown.
Yeah, but she looked like a puppy,
Yeah, so she looked really young.
It was very understandable as to why I saw her and was like, oh, this is a beautiful puppy. She tricked me, catfished.
Turned out, dogfished.
Dogfished me.
Turned out that she was about 2 to 4 years old. She had been brought up from the Carolinas. I forget if it was North or South Carolina, but they found her, I guess, on the side of the road and brought her up through this rescue. She had recently just had babies. So we knew that she had had a difficult life, and she was very difficult the first 2 years we had her. It took a while for us to decide to get more pets because she was a full-time job.
Yeah.
I believe
first time we took her to the dog park, as new pet owners, you want to take your dog to the dog park to socialize, or so that's what we assumed. She was around other dogs. when we were at the event.
Yeah, she was
So it
fine
wasn't
around
too
other
bad of
dogs
an
at the
issue.
event.
Yeah. But when we got her, they told us, hey, we don't have much information on her. Pretty much what you get is what you get. So we were kind of like shooting in the dark and taking her around and stuff. We ate outside with her
Hmm.
at a restaurant, but when we took her to the dog park, that's when we got our first issue. She bit another dog, or
We
so they
didn't see
say.
it. It happened I believe it. I definitely believe she did it. She
Oh,
did it.
oh no!
We
You know, I'm
just
trying to
didn't
say my
see it
baby did it, but
because she was just all over the place. We learned very quickly that she loves to play. She loves tennis balls. She loves to chase. She loves to play fetch, but she gets very
toy
possessive
possessive.
of her toys. And so when we first got her, she wasn't as dog aggressive. And that actually kind of developed more so, I think, from being in an apartment, which,
Yeah,
if you listen to the prior episode, is why there was a lot of motivation for us to buy a house and get more space. But it was very difficult after that to take her anywhere because not only was she dog aggressive, but like she couldn't play around other dogs either because she would get into fights if anybody tried to take her toy.
yeah. But actually, taking a little step back, but with that, the very first expense that we actually had with the pets was adopting Quinn. And that
Yes.
was because she was a red bandana, so which meant that she had a few more issues than the typical green bandana dog. And for that, we actually had to pay more to adopt her. So the standard fee was, I think, roughly what, $200,
I think it
$300?
was $200 and we had to pay either 3 or 400.
Yeah, I think it was
This
a
was back
hundred.
in 2018, so I couldn't find an email record.
Yeah, I think it was an extra $150 because she was a red bandana dog.
Yeah,
Uh,
and you would think that it would actually be cheaper because they're difficult dogs, but I respect the reason that it is more expensive for a difficult dog because they do want to incentivize the right people to adopt these dogs. Dogs that have behavioral issues need a lot of work
yeah. Oh, and she definitely did. I mean,
and they don't want these dogs returned. They
yeah,
want to
and
find forever
yeah,
homes.
and that's what they were really like encouraging with that. I mean, but you went to the apartment to do the walk around when while I was like filling out the paperwork and stuff. But like, yeah, they really encouraged training. They even said like, hey, we have a trainer that we use at a discounted rate because you have a dog through us and stuff.
Yeah.
So like they're definitely encouraging people to find their forever home with this pet.
Yeah, but it was still about $400 to adopt her. And then we went to the store and we got all the things that she needed, which ended up being kind of a waste of money because
Yeah.
she, like I mentioned, she was really difficult when we brought her home. Like she had a long adjustment period. I think she wasn't happy to be in a home after living on the streets
Right.
and
She was free.
she was free. She had a lot of trust issues and we got her a fabric crate, not like a metal crate, and we had it by the bed. And I remember she just did not want to go in there, and she was having a really hard time when she was in there. And I wake up the next morning after the first night she's there, and she had fully bit her way out of this crate, and she was in another room. And I'm like, what the heck? And not only that, she had pooped everywhere. I remember I woke up and there was just a smell of chaos and poop in the air. And I was like, something is very wrong.
Yeah, yeah. So first recommendation, like she said, buy one of the metal crates.
Yeah, a
It's definitely
durable
worth
crate.
definitely worth it, honestly. This
Yeah.
that's the thing too, is that'll be a common theme, is that if you try to go the cheap route when it comes to pet stuff, you usually pay,
You end up paying down the
yeah,
road for
down
the
the road.
real thing.
Exactly. So you might as well just go ahead and make the investment to the, higher quality things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had that.
She also had behavioral issues, so we had to put her in training.
Which we wanted to
Um,
do anyways. I mean, like, I feel like it's always a good way for a pet owner to understand their dog more,
yeah,
or
dog
even their
training
pet.
is not necessarily training the dog. What we learned is it's training the human to the dog's behavior and their personality and what they're trying to tell you.
Exactly, because like we as humans, we know how to communicate pretty much, one of two ways, visually or audibly.
Hard to do that with the dog.
Right. So yeah, a
But they
lot of
understand treats and toys.
right. So a lot of that training was actually like her training us on what to look for as far
Mhm.
as in cues, especially because she's dog aggressive. So
Yeah.
like we were trying to work on that as well, like the
Anybody
aggression.
listening who has difficult for babies. I know is nodding their head at
Yeah.
how difficult it is because it's not easy, and there's also not a lot of representation out there for dogs that are not,
The
the
perfect, yeah.
five-star golden retriever,
Can
we
sit on
need,
command and,
yeah,
all that.
awareness for difficult dogs too.
Yeah. We we love them all the same though. But yeah, so with that, we had to pay for training it, and that came out to
I couldn't find receipts because that was a whole story. We actually ended up going with some random lady who wasn't just a random lady when I booked it. I
yeah.
remember it was like a reputable site with like a reputable, review system and everything. And then when I booked it, it ended up this lady had just broken up with her boyfriend who was her co-founder of the company, and things had just started spiraling after that. I'm not going to name names because I think she was a really good person and she helped us immensely.
Yeah, she definitely did.
But it was just kind of sketchy, like how things ended up. I remember at one point she talked about how great Quinn was, and how receptive she was to training. And she was like, "Can I take your dog to Arizona with me to this dog show so we can start training her, as like a training dog or an attack dog or something?"
Yeah.
And I was like,
And this was like after 3 sessions.
yeah.
So
And
it
I
was
was like,
like,
I don't know you. There was something off about her. I was just like, trust your gut. And I'm glad we didn't because shortly after that, we only got like 6 sessions in with her and she disappeared off the
yeah,
face of the planet.
completely
We
disappeared.
lost money on that. I believe sessions were pretty pricey. I want to say that I paid $700 for 10 sessions. So it was about $70 per session.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, that sounds right. But then I remember we also paid
We paid
for, yeah, for
extra.
an addition. So she pretty much was like, hey, I'm a little hurt on cash for right now.
Yes.
But like, would you guys mind paying for a few extra sessions? And like, I'll definitely give them to you. But like,
She
just paying
didn't give
for
it
them
to
in
us.
advance. Red flag. But like, I think that like that's our biggest problem is that we tend to, always have faith in people. Not
We hope for the
necessarily,
best
yeah,
and we
not
ignore the red
necessarily a
flags.
problem, but like, yes, we tend to ignore red flags. That was
That was a
definitely
red
one.
flag.
But yeah, we did it anyways. At the end of the day, like we don't mind helping people out. If we have the ability to give, we will.
Yeah, and she did a really good job. She knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
So we digress. Training for Quinn cost about $700 and it got her to a point where she was no longer pulling on leash. She
Yeah.
was, controllable around other dogs. She had confidence in herself around people and other dogs. So it was well worth it. I think training, is not just an investment in you, but also in your dog and your family. So I think it's one of those costs that if you do have a dog that has issues, instead of just fighting with them and making the issue worse, and just never
Yeah.
coming to a resolution, go to training as soon as you can. Try to do at least 3 sessions if you can afford it, because it's crazy how you walk out of there, after that 1 hour with your dog and it's just a different language that you're speaking with them, and really good trainers know what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Because the Quinn that we had back before the
It's
training and the
crazy.
Quinn we have now, completely different. It's to the point to where now I feel like we actually do communicate. Like
Yeah,
I'll tell her upstairs, or
and she gets
yeah, and
it.
like she actually gets it. Before I would tell her things and I'm like, she don't know what the hell I'm saying.
Yeah, and the learnings that we got from Quinn helped us in the future with our
With Semi,
second dog.
yeah.
But before we got our second dog, we got our cats. We got
Yes.
our cats in 2022 or 2023.
Right. Let me tell you guys how this happened, right? So what she likes to do is she sets her mind to something and then she'll just constantly remind me of it down the road. So it was actually like a few months before that she mentioned wanting a cat. A cat.
We'd
So,
only had the three of us for a
right.
long time.
So
It was
I'm
time
like,
to
all right, cool.
expand.
We'll think about it. We'll think about it. And then a few months later, it went to, oh, well, like we're driving past the shelter. We might as well just stop in really quick.
Just see what they've got.
We walked out with 2 kittens.
Guys, we
Went
went in
went to
there.
look at a cat. Look at
I think it was
and walked
Christmas
out with
Day
2. Yeah,
too.
it
It was
was.
Christmas Day when, like he said, when I put my mind to something, I'm very headstrong. I will make it happen. Yeah, we walked into the Fairfax Animal Shelter
Yep.
and we wanted to get a
You
cat.
wanted
We
to
were
look at a
looking we
cat.
were looking at a cat and they didn't have very many.
Yeah.
They had one older cat who just didn't, I forget why, wasn't a good fit, because we did actually think about an older cat
It
at
was
first. We didn't want a
because of
kitten
Quinn.
because of Quinn,
Yeah.
that we figured an older cat just wouldn't vibe very well with our dynamic, and a kitten would be easier to introduce to Quinn.
Yeah.
And also I think that that cat didn't like dogs, which made it pretty
Well,
easy
and then
because
they
it was
had
a bummer. It was a really cute cat. I remember.
the other cat that was also an older one. More like a teenage cat, but he only had one eye.
Yes, that cat
And
was
yeah, we
cool.
thought about him for a second, but then
There was something about
it
him.
was the Quinn thing. It was
Yeah.
because we knew that she was aggressive with older dogs or like bigger dogs because she tended to go after the ones that was bigger than her, which was
Yeah.
wild. But smaller dogs she kind of left alone. So he's like, oh, that's probably because she had puppies. So maybe it'll be the same with cats.
Hmm.
So then that's when we started determining whether or not we wanted the smaller cats or the older ones.
And there were only two smaller cats, two kittens. They were named after the Bronte sisters, so there were two kittens there. And the reason that we ended up walking out with two is because these kittens were
They
sisters.
played us.
They
No, I'm
were
joking.
sisters, and they were a bonded pair, and they actually, I don't even know if they told us that they were bonded, but it
Yeah,
wouldn't sit right with me
they were
with
like
separating
yeah, they were like
sisters.
they came in together. They've been in the same cage together, and like they've just been together. They
Couldn't
hadn't been
separate
there
them.
long though. That was the good
No.
thing because like they were still relatively young.
I think they were just found somewhere
Yeah.
and brought in.
And with that, we it's like, all right, well,
And
I
then
guess
with that, we walked out
yeah,
with
we
two
walked out
cats
with two
that day.
cats. But with that though,
They were so cute and
we also
little.
had to pay an adoption fee for them.
Yeah, that was, I think, only $100 for each of them. It was
Yeah,
less than $500.
because they gave us a deal because usually the fee is 200.
Because we got two.
But because we got two, they gave each one of us or gave them to us for $100 a piece, which also covered, their
They had just gotten spayed.
Yeah.
So that had already been taken care of. They had to come out with little paper plates around
Little
their
paper
necks
plates.
because
It was
they
super
were too
cute.
small for little
Cones.
cones. It was so cute.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a easy introduction. Quinn, was really great with them off the bat, which
Yeah.
was
It
wonderful.
was a very slow introduction. That's the one
Very
thing that I
slow.
would recommend. Bringing a new pet into the home, make it slow, especially because Quinn had been in the house for over a year now,
Yeah.
And
Oh,
she
it
had
was well over a year.
yeah,
Been
she
4
was like,
years.
"This is my home,"
Yeah.
So we definitely quarantined them and stuff to make sure that nothing was passed on, but then also to make it to where the relationship could build, in
They each had
a
their
nice soft
space.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the cats knew they had their space too.
And they adjusted to each other really well, like Quinn and Murphy. So we ended up naming them Mischief and Murphy. We call them our M&Ms. Mischief is your cat, quote
She's my
unquote.
baby.
Murphy is my cat, the tuxedo cat, quote unquote. They're both our cats, but it was like the one that we bonded with the most.
Yeah, they bonded with us right outside of the crate, and then pretty much stayed exactly like that throughout the
Very
development.
temperamental, but we've always been around them since we brought them home, since they were really young. So they're very much people cats. They hang around us all the time.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, like, it was just the three of us, and Quinn always hangs out with us. Like, no matter where we are, Quinn is there. And I was worried that the cats would be really like antisocial and just
Yeah.
not want to hang out with us. And that's not the case. Like, they'll literally come lay at your feet if you're on the couch. And sometimes, like, you move and you like kick them a little.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, I didn't even know you were
Just
there.
last week, I'm laying on the couch and like the cats love to lay in between my legs, So I keep the blanket kind of raised a little bit, but I didn't notice that Murphy was there. And sure enough, like I'm like, dang, my hips are hurting. So I go to kick my leg out, and she just flies off the couch. Like,
Sorry, didn't know you were there.
too
But they're
quiet.
so cute.
Yeah.
Like, they were the easiest adjustment and also the cheapest. And we'll get into a little bit more of like all their joint finances in a bit. But let's
Yeah.
wrap up with Semi, our
Yeah,
newest
Semi, our
edition.
newest edition.
We got him last Christmas.
Yeah, last Christmas. We love to rescue animals on Christmas, apparently.
I think we're just in a
Yeah.
giving mood, and we just love pets and
And
animals
we just give
so
to them.
much. Yeah.
But with him, He was also a puppy.
We were
Um,
looking specifically
yeah,
for a puppy.
specifically for a puppy,
Although
a boy
Quinn
puppy.
is the anomaly here. She was older when we got her. And if I were to adopt today, I would advise getting an older dog
Oh,
just because they're
definitely.
way easier than. I had no idea what a puppy was like. I didn't grow up having animals. So having Quinn was definitely an adjustment, but in the way that I expected, having a new pet would
Yeah.
be. Having Semi, it's a hot take to say this, and I'm not 100% comparing it, but it felt like having a newborn baby. And it made me very certain that I don't want that anytime
Oh,
soon
it
because
was,
it was so much work
yeah. Needed to go out on a regular, needed to
every
teach him.
hour.
Well, that was the difference, right? When we had Quinn and like Quinn would mess up, I'd be like, come on, man. Like, I'm teaching you these things. You should know better.
Hmm.
With him, whenever he would do something, I'm like, come on, man. I can't even be mad
He's a
because
little
I know
doofus.
you really don't know any better. Like, you
Hmm.
just don't know.
Yeah.
And like, I have to teach you. So therefore,
Yeah.
like, I can't just be like, don't poop in the house. Like, I have to teach you.
He pooped in the house like
Uh,
every day for a month.
oh man. But then
Don't get a
once he
puppy
got the
if you
hang
don't want
of
to
it,
clean up poop.
yeah, once he got the hang of it, like it became easy. But like it's just that portion of getting them used to
Yeah.
things, you know.
But Semi was also an adoption. We got him from Canine Animal Rescue. We were looking for a puppy. We didn't really care what type of
Yeah, we just wanted
puppy.
to rescue a
We
puppy.
we love mutts and rescuing, these little guys that often get ignored
Yeah,
when it comes down to it. So we were
especially
just
because
looking
like
for that.
yeah, especially because like Quinn has that German Shepherd look.
Mhm.
So he kind of had more of like a what would be a pit bull look.
Yeah. He
And
was
those
just a regular looking
but
shepherd
like with
though.
that, like those tend not to get adopted a lot. So
Mhm.
that's kind of where we were aiming for is getting a dog that we feel as though we can give a better life than what it would see at the shelter or
Yeah,
something.
we did a little introduction between the two of them. We brought Quinn with us when we went to go meet Semi. They liked each other enough. We needed to make sure that
Yeah.
Quinn didn't have any issues with him at first because she is, dog aggressive. And to this day, she's great around Semi, but she picks and chooses the dogs that she, wants to be friendly with. So if you also are listening and have a dog aggressive pet and are, wanting to add to the family, take it slow like we did with the cats, but also make sure that you get that, in person or in feline.
Yeah.
Get that meeting in person between them as well because it'll tell you off the bat if they're vibing with each other or not. And Semi
Yeah.
is just a very goofy personality that I think Quinn was just like annoyed with
Yeah,
him,
she's like,
but
"What are you doing,
she was
dude?"
okay with
Yeah.
him.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's the thing too is like when it came to adopted Semi, we had a conversation
Mhm.
with the rescue prior, like, "Hey, this is the situation that we're currently dealing with.
Mhm.
Like
Are you open to it?
this is what we did with our kittens, so we want to do the same with the puppy.
Mhm.
Is that okay?" And they were completely understandable. They were like, "Yeah, if things don't work out, because at the end of the day, our main concern is Quinn,
Mhm.
making sure that she's happy, and we didn't want to bring another puppy into the house and like
Quinn be completely
exactly like she turn away and
stressed.
stuff from it. So they were like, yeah, give it a week, and if at the end of the week or even sooner you guys don't see any progress, then bring them back.
Yeah, and luckily that's not what happened.
Yeah,
How much was Semi to adopt? I
I think he
forget.
was 250.
250,
Yeah,
and we had to pay for his neuter,
yeah,
which I actually have the numbers for. These are more recent costs that I was able to
yeah,
find actual receipts for. Semi's neuter cost $611. So on top of, the adoption fee, we also had to pay for his neutering. And I think that takes us to a pretty good place to talk about the finances of each of them. We've
yeah,
broken down how much it was to adopt them all, but what does it look like now,
on a
after
monthly.
that major upfront fee?
Yeah, so pretty much as of right now, each one of the dogs have their own food
Yeah.
because Semi is still in his puppy phase, so he eats puppy chow
Mhm.
or puppy food, and Quinn eats adult food. And then the cats, they have a morning dry kibble,
Mhm.
and in the evening wet food. And we also have 4 litter boxes, so keep that in mind.
Yeah.
4 litter boxes.
One of our cats is
Mischief.
very picky about where she likes to go and how clean it is. And so we
Yeah.
have 4
So we have
because we had a pee
all,
problem for a second.
but all of that combined, just food and litter, comes out to about $430 every month.
Okay, so that's what we're paying for their food and their litter. They
Yes.
also have insurance, which we've mentioned before in our budget breakdown that we have them on Lemonade insurance. We were on Embrace for a little bit, and I remember I despised it. It was also really expensive and complicated. And so I found Lemonade because I used them for our renter's insurance
Yeah.
at one of our apartments, and I just loved the interface. It was so easy. It was the first time I was able to actually like understand finances, and this is not a paid endorsement. I've reached out to them, but they have yet to email me back. So hopefully in the future we can work with them. But
Right.
this is just upfront transparency, how much it costs. So the cats are $355.72 a year. I pay the annual fee because you save money if you pay annual versus if you pay month to month. And then Quinn's insurance with Lemonade is $754 a year, and Semi's is $872. He's a little bit pricier because he's a puppy, so they assume that he's going to have more vet visits, which
Yeah.
ended up being the case because I didn't even pay like the bundle for the puppy. I paid the young dog cost, but I didn't pay the puppy bundle, which gave us like more coverage, and it ended up that we definitely could have used it. So, pro tip, I definitely would pay the extra price for like the puppy bundle if you're able to. But overall, for all of them, at that rate, it covers 80% of incidents with a $500 annual deductible and goes up to an annual maximum of $20,000. And this covers, diagnostics, procedures, medications when they have accidents, illnesses, chronic conditions, or hereditary conditions that flare up. It also covers annual visit fees and preventative care like a wellness exam, a blood test, a fecal test, all of that. It's a huge money save. We always save money whenever we take them to the vet.
Yeah, especially because like we've had unexpected visits.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So with Semi, yeah, let's talk about
Semi
his
had to
first.
get neutered, which was $611. But
But that night, the vet, they told us ahead of time, hey, some dogs do react negatively to anesthesia, so just take things slow. That night, everything was fine up until he went to sleep. He didn't really want to eat that much before, which is unlike Semi, but we didn't really stress it because of the stressful day he had.
yeah,
And then that night he threw up and he pooped, and then he ate it, and then he threw
pooped
up
again
again.
and then, oh.
So at 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up to just this horrendous smell. I called for help 3 times. But yeah, just this terrible smell. And with that, obviously, we were like, okay, there's something not right with him. We ended up cleaning him up and taking him to the emergency vet.
Yeah, we had to take him to the emergency vet. Basically, they just told us that some dogs get really nauseous when they get that medication that makes them go under
Yeah,
anesthesia.
anesthesia.
And so all they had to do was give him a anti-nausea medication, and that vet visit cost another like $500
Yeah,
for them to run tests. And he also was in a bad mood, so he
yeah.
was like nipping at the vet, and it was a whole
Yeah,
thing.
but they told us, yeah, he's full of gas
Yeah,
and
they were
he
like,
was
he's
nauseous.
gassy
So
and nauseous. Poor
terrible.
buddy. So that was expensive. But also the most expensive thing is Quinn recently
Yeah,
has been, it's hard to talk
yeah,
about. She's getting old.
yeah.
And it became evident to us on our honeymoon, actually. So not only was our wedding tainted by
Negative
the
comments.
well, not only was it tainted by the events of October 7th, our wedding was the day after, and then afterwards our honeymoon was tainted by really negative comments on our wedding breakdown video, all at the same time. We get a call from my parents who are watching our pets, and things are not good with Quinn.
They pretty much just told us, like, yeah, she was acting funny, so they took her to the emergency room.
Acting funny as in, like, stumbling. She was just not
herself.
herself. They thought that she had like a weed brownie or something, and as you know, we garden, but we don't have edibles.
Yeah.
There's no way she could have gotten access to anything, which is why for the longest time it was something that we were really confused about because they didn't get an answer when they took her to the vet as to what
And
happened.
vet visit was $1,000.
That vet visit cost us $1,000.
Yeah.
Yep. We got money back because it was an incident that was covered by her insurance, but I think we only got, maybe $200 back or something. We still had to pay a lot out of pocket. And then a couple months later, we realized that this would be a reoccurring thing with her, and we are still trying to figure out what the issue is. But we have spent a lot of money. We had to take her to a neurologist, believe it or not. There are
Dog
neurologists
neurology.
for pets.
Yeah.
And thank God because they're wonderful. They're really great,
Amazing
intelligent,
doctors.
and
Yeah.
amazing doctors. And they've been so great with her. And we had to go get a consultation, which cost us a couple $100. I believe it was $350 for an initial consultation. We decided to wait until, more incidents like that were common for it to make sense for her to have an actual test, an MRI, and a spinal tap. And that started becoming pretty frequent a couple months after. All in all, we paid $536 for her to undergo an evaluation, which led to their determination for her to go get surgery.
Or no, so from that, they determined that an MRI as well as a spinal tap would probably help figure out what's actually going on because they figured that it was neurological. And they can't see her brain without either going in there or taking images of it.
Yeah.
So we came to the conclusion that it was about that time. Dropped her off that day. They put her under anesthesia. They had care for her for that whole day. She did a chest x-rays, MRI, and a spinal tap.
And she was under anesthesia for a lot of it, which is where a lot of the cost comes from. But yeah, I mean, if you're listening, let's take a moment, play a game, and guess how much that cost, just for a day of those procedures.
Yeah. Take a guess.
Do 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 do.
Discuss with your partner. Try to figure this out.
Drum roll, please. $4,400. All of that for them to tell us not really much. They still have no idea what's wrong with her, but they did find something major.
Yeah, that she has like atrophy in the back of her brain. So pretty much our next steps is to figure out if this is a disease-borne illness, or hereditary. And from there, it's all about making her life as comfortable as possible for the next however long.
Yeah, it kind of sucked because we talked about it.
Don't cry.
I can't. I'm not crying.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
But yeah, I mean, it sucks because we talked about how we're almost hoping that it was like cancer or something because it would be something to fight.
Yeah. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And I mean, we don't really know how old Quinn is. So we were taking a gamble in the first place. We were told that she was in between 2 to 4 when we first adopted her. And that was...
She's like 7 to 9 now.
Yeah.
But I think she's a little older.
Oh, she's definitely. But
she's had a good life.
Yeah. And with that, I meant like, so that's a lot of the bigger expenses that we've had. But then we've had other expenses like doggy bags or
that's definitely an
doggy
expense.
beds, toys, because Quinn loves to destroy toys.
We pay for what's that? We do Bark Box.
Yeah.
I think it's more so for me because I think the toys are really
too.
cute.
Yeah.
And they just destroy them immediately.
Yeah, and then other things would be like like dental supplies.
Yeah.
And treats as well as like the county fee that we have to pay.
Oh man. Yeah, you're basically paying taxes on them as well. You got to pay an annual pet fee. I think that the equivalent of that, if you're not a homeowner, and you might actually have to pay for it in your county regardless, because I know that we have to pay a registration fee. But you also, if you live in an apartment, you might have to pay a pet fee, a pet rent.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of costs associated with pets that I don't think we really thought about prior to getting them.
Yeah.
But at the
Still
same
cheaper than kids at the
right,
end of the
because at
day.
the end of the day, like, I still wouldn't change that. Like, yes,
Yeah.
you're coughing up a lot, but, like, at the end of the day, like, it's the, coming home to tail wagons, waking up in the morning to, hearing them barking and stuff. Although it's annoying, at the end of the
It's a
day,
privilege.
yeah, it's a privilege.
Yeah, they're just a really big part of our lives, and I think it's one of the reasons that travel has become less enjoyable to me recently is because I just hate being away from them, especially for long times, and I worry about, not being able to come home to them, and I just get all up in my head and anxious about, like, what if we don't come home and they don't know what happened,
Yeah.
so I just prefer to be home with them. I feel like this is what parents feel like, about
Right.
their kids, but those are my babies. So, last but not least, we'll wrap it up with some of our recommendations. My
Yeah.
number one is I don't judge whether or not people adopt or shop, but if, costs are a thing to you and you want to save money, definitely adopt. There's so many amazing dogs and cats and animals that are in these shelters that are not getting the same attention as, pedigree dogs, but they're just as great. They're just as great.
Yeah. My recommendation would be if you're considering a pet, you're not sure, you're not quite sure, you don't even know if you really want that commitment, foster.
Yes,
Honestly,
fostering.
fostering does a lot for the pet community. And if you want to, you can even look on like a lot of their Facebook pages because some of them, unlike us, whenever we leave, we have people to take care of our pets.
Yeah, that's a big one. Thankfully, my parents watch them when we're gone, if
Yeah.
you're wondering about that, but that would be like
That would be a
how
huge
much?
expense.
How much
Um,
was it?
I looked
We
it up
looked it
for
up.
us on Rover.
Mhm.
And it was $200 a day at minimum, and that was
Oh
just
my
for.
god.
It depends on the amount of visits you need them to do, and then how many pets. And because we have 4 pets, all 4 of them need to be fed twice a day, and 2 of them need to be let out multiple times a day. It would have definitely been well over $200.
Man, thank
Yeah.
goodness we've got help there because
But
that would really
I'm
eat
telling
up
you.
our budget.
But like with that, like some fosters, one actually reached out to us not too long ago because
Mhm.
they're fostering this beautiful dog that's, well trained and everything, but they have to leave for a week and they don't have anybody that can take care for it.
Yeah.
So they were asking if there was somebody who was willing to foster that pet temporarily for them.
And there's a reason foster fails is such a thing
Yeah.
that a lot of people will foster, to get a sense of what it's like to have an animal, and then they foster one and they fall in love with it and it becomes their
Their
part of their
baby.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a great way to dip your toe in, absolutely.
And then if you do have pets, foster anyways. Like we all
Fostering
love
is
them.
a great way to
Yeah.
help out. I would also say, I donate personally every month to the ASPCA. If there's anything you can do on a monthly basis, not just with your finances, if that's not possible, volunteering your
Yeah,
time is
volunteering your
almost
time.
as valuable as your finances. A lot of shelters are always looking for help, to entertain the animals,
Dog
to
runners.
dog runners, to take care of them, to clean up after them. It's a thankless job, but really the value that you bring to them is, I think, invaluable.
Yeah, and also if you want to, you can probably even look at your location and see when they're holding a pet event. And a
Mhm.
lot of the times they actually look for volunteers to be handlers.
Yeah, or people to just drive the dogs from the foster's location to the event or the actual shelter to the event. If you can just volunteer your car for an hour to drive a dog from one place to the next to get adopted, it's a huge
Yeah,
value.
huge value. Training. If you have the time, if you have the money, put your animal, cat, dog, I don't know. I don't know if you can.
Primarily
Yeah, I
dog.
don't know if you could put
The
your cat
cat
in
trains
trainer.
you.
Yeah, but like put your dog in trainer. It's definitely worth it. And like we said, it's more so for the owner themselves because we don't really know what we're doing.
Mhm.
We just assume that it would be like raising a kid, but it's not because the language is completely different. Even your mannerisms are completely different. So
Especially if it's your first dog.
yeah, if it's your first one, take it into training. Because I took Semi to the dog park and people kept asking if he was professionally trained.
And it's just
He's
because we
not.
know what to do
Yeah,
because we
no.
took Quinn in training.
Yeah, so definitely take the time to do that.
Huge, huge thing to do. And my last piece of advice is don't make the decision lightly to get animals. I know it sounds like we've made it lightly, but I feel like we're really well experienced with animals now that it's not something we go into lightly, but we're well prepared for. And so, especially if you're listening and you're contemplating getting your first animal, definitely get one that best suits your lifestyle. Dogs thrive when they have activities and exercise. And what I love about having them is it gets us out of the house. They need to go on a walk, they need those enrichment activities, and giving it to them will literally give you a different dog, especially if they're acting up or
Yes.
disobeying. Give them an activity, give them something to do with their mind or their body because that is huge for them. And if you're somebody that doesn't really want to exercise much, get a dog that matches that because there are dogs out there that also don't like to exercise, or
Typically the
get a
older ones.
cat, because cats are the ones that are the least amount of work. They usually will tell you when they want to be pet. They don't really
Yeah.
like to play so much. I mean, that's not true, but it's a little less investment to play with your cat in the house and just throw a ball back and forth versus a dog, putting your boots on and going outside. So
Yeah.
don't undertake it if you feel like you can't do that responsibility, and get something that best matches your lifestyle because they matter too. They
Yeah.
deserve a good home.
They really do.
But that's all we have for you this week. We hope that this was insightful. And if you have some animals yourselves, you can compare your budgets to ours and what your costs have been. But yeah, let us know in the comments how many dogs or cats you have, their names, how you got
Send
them.
us pictures. We
We want
definitely love to see
pictures.
them.
That would be awesome. But yeah, let us know in the comments also what you'd like us to cover next time. We would love new ideas and definitely to cover what you all would like to hear from us. But if you're not already subscribed, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Leave us a review. It helps us get, sent out into the podcast sphere way more than if you don't. But thank you so much for listening. We're so grateful to all of you. And thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.